Gran Melia Palacio de Isora. In March 2026, a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 children, aged 6 months and 3 years, stayed at a GM hotel. This is our personal review, highlighting what we found positive and where improvements could be made. Contents: 1. Greetings. 2. General. 3. Kids entertainment. 4. Meals. 1. Greetings. First, we would like to express our sincere thanks to Nati and Victor from Agava, as well as Lucy and Daniela from Panja. You made our stay more comfortable, and your approach clearly reflects a high standard of customer service. 2. General. The GM Hotel features a large, expansive area with abundant greenery and pleasant walking paths. There are multiple pools available, including what is described as the longest saltwater swimming pool in Europe. The resort is extensive, and guests are likely to have a very comfortable stay, particularly when traveling without small children or specific daily needs. It is especially well suited for those whose main priorities are relaxing in the sun, swimming, and enjoying leisure activities. We booked the room with 1 extra bed, 2 separate blankets for the adults, and a baby crib. Upon entering the room, we were welcomed with 2 extra beds, a baby crib, and 1 large shared blanket on the king-size bed, apparently an optimistic interpretation of our reservation. This marked the beginning of a situation that never really reached a logical conclusion. Despite multiple attempts to clarify the setup, no one ever removed the additional bed. In the end, our toddler unexpectedly became the proud owner of a second king-sized sleeping arrangement. During the discussions, we were informed that the bed frame could not be separated from the mattress, and therefore both had to remain in the room at all times, even if the guest only wanted the mattress and preferred to place it on the floor. No clear explanation for this policy was ever provided, leaving us with the impression that the furniture arrangement may have been governed by principles beyond ordinary hospitality logic. There were several days when we had to call guest services 3 separate times to request room cleaning. With 2 small children, including a baby using multiple diapers a day, housekeeping was not exactly a luxury feature but more of a practical necessity. Despite repeated promises, no one ever arrived on those occasions, and we eventually had to find alternative storage solutions for used diapers, the balcony becoming an unexpectedly important extension of the room. This stood in noticeable contrast to the confident assurances at check-in regarding the hotel's daily housekeeping service, which, at least during our stay, appeared to operate more as a theoretical concept than a consistent routine. At one point, we placed our dirty laundry into the pretty laundry bag and left it neatly on the bathroom floor. The following day, the bag itself had mysteriously disappeared, while the dirty clothes had been carefully redistributed directly onto the floor. To this day, the situation remains somewhat unclear. The laundry bag was never seen again, and the reasoning behind the operation remains hidden somewhere beneath the fog of housekeeping procedures. One beautiful evening while sitting at the ocean terrace, we ordered non-alcoholic drinks for ourselves and for the children. Fortunately, we have a habit of tasting everything before serving it to the kids. One of the children's drinks contained alcohol. The situation was handled politely after it was brought to the staff's attention, but it was still a rather concerning mistake, especially in an environment that presents itself as family-friendly. It also served as a reminder that non-alcoholic can occasionally be interpreted with a degree of creativity. The housekeeping carts deserve a special mention of their own. Moving through the hallways, they produced a sound experience remarkably similar to a Boeing 747 accelerating down a runway, fortunately limited mostly to working hours. As we had specifically requested a quiet room, it was slightly unfortunate to spend much of the day listening to the approaching and departing thunder of cleaning operations outside the door. What makes the situation somewhat surprising is that there are relatively simple ways to reduce this type of noise. For example, replacing the wheels with rubber or other softer materials could significantly improve the experience for guests seeking rest and quiet. At the moment, however, the carts seem committed to delivering maximum acoustic presence throughout the corridor. The air inside the room often felt heavy and humid, despite the air conditioning running continuously. As a result, wet swimsuits dried remarkably slowly indoors, turning the room into a small-scale tropical climate experiment. We also discovered that drying racks are not provided by the hotel. Apparently, While the resort is fully committed to ensuring guests become wet at every available pool, beach, and water feature, the drying process itself falls outside the scope of the hotel's amenities. One small but surprisingly noticeable omission was the complete absence of a toilet brush in the bathroom. Presumably, this was considered either an unnecessary luxury expense or part of a broader strategy to encourage guest interaction with housekeeping services. In theory, one could perhaps contact guest services in the event of a bathroom-related emergency and wait for professional assistance to arrive. In practice, however, considering the already inconsistent housekeeping response times, it may also explain why the cleaning staff seemed permanently occupied, possibly moving from one urgent toilet situation to another across the vast resort. Kids' entertainment. During our stay, there were several rainy or otherwise colder days. In a resort of this size, it was disappointing to find very limited activities for toddlers and young children outside of swimming-related options. The baby club is available, but it comes at an additional cost, and naturally not every small child feels comfortable being left in an unfamiliar environment, especially when they do not speak English. For a hotel positioning itself as family-friendly, it would be great to see more accessible activities for younger children during the off-season as well. At the moment, the overall concept seems to assume that children will either swim indefinitely or adapt enthusiastically to adult holiday schedules. The opening hours of the Atlas Isora Funfair deserve special recognition. Keeping a children's entertainment area open from 18:30 to 22 o'clock is certainly a bold scheduling choice, particularly considering that this is exactly the time when most young children should be calming down, eating dinner, and preparing for sleep. Naturally, the area remained closed for much of the day, only to open precisely when parents were attempting to transition their children into a peaceful evening routine. One can only admire the confidence behind a concept that effectively asks families to choose between bedtime and brightly lit excitement. It was therefore not entirely surprising to see many children highly energized well past 21 o'clock after an evening at Atlas, leaving parents to enjoy the extended after-hours experience of negotiating with overstimulated toddlers instead of sleeping. Psychologically, a brilliant idea. Guests will very likely be invited to attend presentations for Club by Melia or Circle by Melia, where various membership opportunities are introduced in great detail. At the end of the session, participants may receive a €100 voucher to use within the resort. After receiving ours, we walked directly to the reception desk and asked if the amount could simply be added to our room balance. This innocent request unexpectedly opened the door to a new 15-minute adventure. First, we were informed that the voucher operation and the hotel were technically not under the same ownership structure. Then came the suggestion that taking a photo of the voucher should be sufficient for later use, despite the voucher itself very clearly stating that photographs would not be accepted. This was followed by multiple trips back and forth by the staff member to check the situation, creating the growing impression that transferring €100 onto a room account may have required international legal approval or perhaps consultation with senior financial authorities. Eventually, after approximately 15 minutes of increasingly surreal discussion, visible staff stress, and our own inability to stop laughing at the sheer absurdity of the situation, the €100 was finally transferred onto our room balance after all. A solution that had apparently been impossible moments earlier suddenly became fully achievable. One must admire the dedication. Reception staff clearly have the time and energy to engage in prolonged tactical negotiations over matters that could likely be resolved in under 30 seconds elsewhere. This time, the customer service experience was truly unforgettable. Meals. We visited the Panja, Oasis, and Nami restaurants during our stay. The dining schedule was impressively structured: breakfast at Panja from 07:30–10:30, dinner from 18:30–22:00, lunch at Oasis from 12:30–15:30, and Agave from 12:30–16:00. Outside those hours, guests could enjoy snacks at Oasis from 11:00–12:30 and at Agave from 16:00–17:45. On paper, the system works very well, under one important condition, that all guests operate on an adult holiday schedule. For families with small children, the timing becomes considerably less practical. Toddlers who go for naps around 12 are apparently expected to either postpone basic biological routines or develop a sophisticated appreciation for snack sandwiches instead of proper meals. The overall dining structure feels carefully optimized for relaxed adults enjoying cocktails by the pool, while families with young children are gently encouraged to adapt themselves to the timetable rather than the other way around. Opposite the reception area, the hotel offers a special service for customized meals. On our very first day, we ordered morning and evening porridge for the baby, along with other meals prepared without salt or additional seasoning. Agavi and Oasis handled everything exactly as agreed, and the baby's meals arrived promptly every time. Panja, however, introduced us to a slightly more adventurous interpretation of the concept. At first, nothing arrived at all. When we asked about the order, nobody seemed aware that such a request even existed. Eventually, one waiter brought something to the table while politely explaining that this was the best he could offer at the moment for baby without teeth. Fortunately, we had brought our own porridge as backup, a decision that quickly proved less paranoid and more strategic. Around the 5th day, breakfast porridge that was supposed to arrive at 7:30 appeared closer to 8:15. The explanation provided was operational difficulties. Waiting 45 minutes for baby porridge is, of course, an excellent opportunity for an infant to reflect on patience and resilience before breakfast. Almost every day, we visited guest services to discuss the porridge situation, and every day we received the same reassuring answer: everything would be taken care of. Eventually, the quality manager personally called us to confirm that we should now definitely receive the porridge. Unfortunately, whenever the restaurant staff changed shifts, the porridge seemed to disappear from institutional memory once again. Only near the end of our holiday did the chef personally begin bringing the porridge directly to our usual table, a system that, after just over 2 weeks of adjustments, finally achieved operational success. Special service, indeed. At the Nami restaurant, we experienced a level of service that was genuinely unforgettable. The bambini lasagna turned out to be far too spicy for our 3-year-old son, who understandably refused to eat it. After requesting an alternative, a pizza was prepared instead, and to be fair, it was excellent for a child. Encouraged by this recovery, we decided to order dessert as well. After approximately 30 minutes of waiting, however, nobody at the table was particularly interested in dessert anymore, mainly because the children were slowly falling asleep at their seats. In the end, the desserts never arrived, and somehow we also never found the motivation to return and continue the culinary suspense story another evening. We now look forward to discovering what new adventures future stays with Melia hotels may bring. Based on this experience, there will almost certainly never be a shortage of memorable stories. Thank you for reading our review and following along on this unexpectedly educational hospitality journey.